Multiple players react to the Knicks signing PJ Tucker. New York also helps reveal what Tucker's role is going to be on this team. New York added PJ Tucker to add more toughness to this roster. But one Knick is pushing back on the narrative that the Knicks are not a tough team. We're going to break down all of these latest reports today. If you're enjoying the content, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And make sure you have notifications on too. If you want to help us grow this channel, then hitting that subscribe button is the best way to do it. And now, let's get started. Multiple players react to PJ Tucker signing with the Knicks. It is official. PJ Tucker has joined New York and taken that final roster spot. As you can see here, and shout out to Knicks PR for making this official announcement. They state that the Knicks have signed PJ Tucker to a 10-day contract. According to Steph Bondy with the New York Post, PJ Tucker said that the Knicks were always his first choice, and he was waiting for the opportunity to sign with New York. So it's clear, PJ Tucker wanted the Knicks, and the Knicks wanted PJ Tucker. And because of that, they wasted no time. They signed him, and now he's on the roster taking up that final roster spot. You guys know how I feel about this signing. How I feel about the Knicks wasting that final roster spot on an aging veteran like PJ Tucker. That's my reaction. What about the other Knicks players? How do they feel about the Knicks adding PJ Tucker to this team? According to Steph Bondy, the Knicks officially signed PJ Tucker today, meaning he'll be eligible for 5 games. The Knicks can then sign him to another 10-day contract, waive him, or sign him to a deal for the rest of the season. Here's what Karl-Anthony Towns had to say about the Knicks landing veteran PJ Tucker. According to Cat, anytime you can get a veteran, and at one point I can remember how deadly he was at the corner threes, #1 in the league. The idea sounds great. Not only was this a response from Karl-Anthony Towns, but in this response, we actually have an idea of how the Knicks are going to utilize PJ Tucker. I said it when the Knicks first added Tucker to this team, when it was announced by Shams of ESPN that the Knicks were adding PJ Tucker to this final roster spot. The way that Tucker shoots that corner three, and given how bad the Knicks are in terms of bench scoring, they need more players off the bench that can score and can score efficiently. Tucker, from the corner, is one of the best in the league over the span of his entire career. If he can still do that, if he can still hit the corner three at a very good percentage, and a lot of teams are going to leave him open, then potentially he can have a very significant role off the bench for New York. I don't know if that's going to happen, and I don't know how much time he's going to get with this team, but it's clear the Knicks signed him with a plan in mind. And that plan, at least according to Karl-Anthony Towns, was to help the Knicks improve their three-point shooting, especially from the corners. And PJ Tucker, he adds that. But notice, Karl-Anthony Towns didn't mention anything about toughness or PJ Tucker adding that to this team. He only mentioned shooting. I'm not saying he thinks the signing is a bad move. Clearly he doesn't. He states the idea could be great. And I agree with him. The idea of adding a player like PJ Tucker, who a few years ago could help a championship team. If he's still that same type of player, he can help this team. But at 39 years old, almost 40 in May, is he really that same type of player the Knicks need? Are teams still going to be fearing him like they did a few years ago? Because personally, I don't believe that. But let's move forward here, because Karl-Anthony Towns wasn't the only person to react to this signing. Coach Tom Thibodeau also responded and said the following about the Knicks getting a player like PJ Tucker. Shout out to Steve Popper of Newsday for giving us the following information. According to him, here's what Tom Thibodeau thought about the Knicks adding Tucker. It's more what your actions are. That's what we need. We need a team full of leaders. I think being mentally tough as a team, you want a group of leaders, a team of leaders. It's not any one particular guy. it falls on the entire team. I've always been a big believer in that. And clearly, adding a player, a veteran like PJ Tucker, he is a leader. He is a locker room presence. He is that veteran leader that potentially younger players in the locker room will listen to. But I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again. Adding PJ Tucker just for a voice doesn't make sense to me. Because if you need that voice, and that's all you needed, why not just sign him as an assistant coach to the team? Why waste a roster spot on a voice? That's what doesn't make sense to me. We got to remember as well, too, the Knicks also mentioned that one of the main reasons they added Tucker to this team is for toughness. Imagine that. Adding one player, and the player that you add is 39-year-old veteran, former NBA champion. I'll give him that. But still, veteran, almost 40-year-old player, PJ Tucker. That guy's going to be the one to change the Knicks, change our perception in terms of not tough to magically tough again? I don't think so. And another player that is pushing back on the Knicks and this narrative of them not being tough is Miles McBride. Miles McBride helped answer two questions for us. Number one, how he feels about the PJ Tucker signing. And number two, his thoughts on the Knicks not being a tough team. Shout out to Steph Bondy for giving us the following information. As the Knicks prepare to sign veteran PJ Tucker to a contract while hoping to add toughness and leadership, Miles McBride pushed back on the idea that the team lost some of those traits from last season's gritty squad. According to McBride, I think our team right now is pretty tough. Throughout the whole season, we've had some great wins, some tough, fight-it-out wins, and we've got stops when we needed to get stops. Anybody that adds to it is going to be great. So clearly, there's the nod to the Knicks adding PJ Tucker. But he took a little bit of offense to the Knicks not being seen as a tough team. He believes New York, as they stand right now, even without Tucker, is still a very tough team. There is one area here that I agree with Miles McBride in. The fact that adding one player, regardless of who that player is, especially if that player is PJ Tucker, is going to change the perception magically of the Knicks and how they're seen across the league. If across the league, the Knicks are not seen as tough, adding a player like PJ Tucker is not going to change that perception. However, I will disagree a little bit that this Knicks team this year is as tough as the team last year. Last year, we always used to say about that team, they're physical, they're tough. If you face New York, you're going to feel it. This year, not really exactly the same. If we were a tough team last year, this year, we're more of a finesse team. That's to be expected because we have more players that have that finesse skill. Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, our two all-stars, our two players that lead the offense on this team, they're finesse type of players. And honestly, I wouldn't have a problem with that. My problem comes to effort and consistency. Those are the biggest issues. I understand wanting to see the same level of defense or maybe the same level of physicality that we saw last year. But the team that did that last year is not the same team that we have this year. That's not a problem. But when you're out there and you're not giving effort, that is absolutely an issue. And this signing for PJ Tucker, in my opinion, it's a Tom Thibodeau move. The main reason I say that is because look at all of the players that were available that the Knicks could have added to this team. PJ Tucker is the oldest among all of them, has the most years of NBA experience among all of them. Former NBA champion, that's a check. If you look at Tom Thibodeau and the roster we have now, does he favor older players with more experience or younger players with less experience? Do the math, think about it a little bit. There you go. Now you understand why the Knicks really made this signing. If Tucker doesn't do anything, doesn't move the needle at all, what are we going to say? What are we going to look at? Because that's the conversation that's going to come next. We have to remember the main utilization for the Knicks right now in regards to Tucker is his three-point shooting from the corner. And since that's the case, I see Landry Shamet fading away in the background and all of his minutes going to PJ Tucker because he still gives you that toughness. He still gives you that defense. At least that's what he used to give you. If he can still give you that exact same thing, give you that toughness, that defense, and can hit the corner three like that, Landry Shamet is out of the rotation. And honestly, if we're seeing players out of the rotation, in my opinion, buy one of those players out, maybe a Delon Wright, and then add more size. Add what we need. Fine. You want PJ Tucker? You can have PJ Tucker. Can we at least buy out Delon Wright, who's getting healthy DNPs, not playing, and add more size? Add more size to this team because that's what we need. Essentially, even if Delon Wright was going to play, now PJ Tucker just took over his role. It makes the most sense now to waive Delon Wright and sign Moses Brown. Hopefully that's the move. Hopefully those are the changes we're going to see in the future. But as of right now, the one thing we do know is PJ Tucker is officially a New York Knick. But what about you guys? What do you think about PJ joining this team and taking that final roster spot? Was it the right move? Should the Knicks have pivoted and made another move? Let me know in the comments section below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knick fans, take care of yourself, your families, and each other. Peace and love.